He did not plan to touch her. The floor was wet, the hallway empty, and the security lights flickered the way they always did near midnight. She was already on the ground when he reached her, breath thin, eyes unfocused. He was a janitor, still in his uniform, keys heavy at his waist. She was someone he had only seen on screens. The difference mattered until it didn't. The emergency dispatcher told him to keep her awake. He tried words. They failed. Her breathing slowed. He did the one thing that felt wrong enough to work. He leaned down, kissed her, and felt her breathe back. By morning, she would live. By morning, his life would not look the same. If you stay through the end, you'll understand why he never went back to that hallway. The building was almost empty by the time Aaron reached the 23rd floor. Offices here shut down early, and the lights followed a pattern he had learned without trying. Every third panel flickered. The hallway near the conference room stayed dim no matter how many times he replaced the bulbs. He pushed his cart forward, mop buckets sloshing softly, keys knocking against his thigh with each step. He worked nights because it paid a little more and because it let him be home in the mornings. He liked seeing his daughter off to school, liked knowing where she was. The night shift asked nothing from him except patience and attention. Halfway down the hall, he noticed the smell first. Not cleaning fluid, something sharp. He slowed, listening. The building made noises at night vents, distant elevators. But this was different. A sound that didn't belong to the structure. He left the cart where it was and followed the sound to the glass-walled conference room at the corner. The door was open. Inside, a woman lay on the floor, one arm bent under her, hair spread unevenly across the tile. Her shoes were off. Her breathing was shallow enough that he had to kneel to be sure it was there. He recognized her face without wanting to. Eleanor Price. He had seen her on the news, in magazines left behind in the break room. She owned the building, owned several more like it. He had never been this close to anyone who lived that far above him. He checked her pulse the way he had been taught years ago, in a first aid course he barely remembered signing up for. It was there, faint and fast. Her eyes were open but unfocused. She tried to speak and failed. Aaron pulled his phone from his pocket and called emergency services. He gave the address, the floor, the room number. His voice stayed steady because it had to. The dispatcher told him to keep her awake, to talk to her, to make sure she kept breathing. He said her name once. It felt strange in his mouth. He asked if she could hear him. She didn't respond. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, then paused longer than it should have. He leaned closer, counting seconds without meaning to. "Stay with me," he said, not because it sounded right, but because it was all he had. The dispatcher's voice continued in his ear, calm and distant. He tried words again. They slid off her. Her head lolled to one side. Her lips had gone pale. He thought about his daughter then, though he would not remember exactly why. Maybe because Lily had once stopped breathing as a baby for long enough to scare him. Maybe because panic had taught him that doing nothing was worse than doing the wrong thing. He set the phone down on the floor beside him. He hesitated, long enough to feel the weight of it. Then he leaned down and pressed his mouth to hers. It was brief and clumsy. Not a kiss the way people meant it. Just contact. Just breath. She coughed, a sharp sound that startled him. Her chest lifted hard. Air rushed back into her like it had been waiting. He pulled away immediately, hands raised as if he had crossed into traffic without looking. She blinked. Her eyes found him for a second, then drifted. But she was breathing. On her own. He picked up the phone again. The dispatcher asked questions he answered with fewer words than before. He stayed kneeling until he heard sirens below, their sound climbing the side of the building. Security arrived first. Then paramedics. The room filled with movement and equipment. Aaron stepped back, suddenly aware of his uniform, the smell of cleaning solution on his hands. He gave his name when asked, showed his badge, answered questions again. No one told him to leave. No one thanked him either. He stood against the wall while they worked, watching Eleanor's chest rise and fall in a steadier rhythm. When they lifted her onto the stretcher, her hand slipped off the side. He noticed the way her fingers curled, relaxed now. As they rolled her out, one of the paramedics nodded at him. not approval, just acknowledgement. The hallway returned to its quiet. The flickering lights kept flickering. Aaron went back to his cart. He wrung out the mop and finished the floor. His hands shook enough that he had to slow down. By the time his shift ended, the sun was beginning to push light between the buildings. He clocked out, keys lighter now that they were still. As he stepped outside, he realized he would never walk that hallway the same way again. Something had happened there that could not be cleaned up. Aaron woke before the alarm. The light through the blinds told him it was later than he liked. He sat up too fast and felt the echo of the night in his shoulders, a dull tightness that had not been there before. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then the apartment came back to him in pieces. The low ceiling, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint sound of traffic 4 floors below. From the other room, Lily coughed once in her sleep. He stood, rubbed his face, and went to the kitchen. The sink was empty. He had washed everything before bed out of habit, even though his hands had not felt steady. He filled the kettle and set it on the stove. While it heated, he opened the lunch drawer and counted slices of bread. Enough for today. Just enough. Lily emerged while he was spreading peanut butter. Her hair stuck out on one side, her pajama shirt turned backward. She didn't notice. She never did. "Morning," she said, voice rough with sleep. "Morning," he answered. She climbed onto the chair by the window and watched him work. He wrapped the sandwich carefully, folding the paper the way she liked. He added an apple, then took it out and replaced it with an orange when he remembered the dentist's note. He set the lunch aside and poured cereal into a bowl. "Did you work late?" she asked. "Yes." She nodded. That answer fit most days. She ate without rushing, staring at nothing in particular. Aaron drank his coffee standing up. It tasted thin. He finished it anyway. After breakfast, Lily went to brush her teeth. Aaron packed her backpack, slipping the lunch inside. A permission slip stuck out of one pocket. He pulled it free and signed his name, writing slower than usual. His hand paused on the last letter. He did not know why. They left the apartment together. The hallway smelled like old carpet and someone else's cooking. The elevator took longer than it should have. Lily leaned against his leg while they waited, pressing her shoulder there with quiet insistence. He rested his hand on her head. Outside, the morning had fully arrived. The street was busy in the way it always was, parents moving fast, kids dragging their feet. Aaron walked Lily to the corner. He crouched his zipper jacket, then stood again. "Don't forget your library book," he said. "I won't." She hesitated, then hugged him quickly, her arms thin but firm. When she pulled back, she looked at him for a second longer than usual. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he said. The words came easily. He watched her cross the street before turning away. The rest of the day passed in small tasks. He cleaned the apartment again, slower this time. He took out the trash. He checked his phone more than he meant to. There were no missed calls, no messages. The building had not reached out. The world had not responded yet. In the afternoon, he went to the grocery store. He noticed a woman glance at him and then look away. He told himself it meant nothing. At the register, the clerk smiled the way she always did. He paid in cash and left with 2 bags, the plastic cutting into his fingers. Back home, he sat at the table and read the mail. Bills, a flyer, nothing else. He folded everything neatly and stacked it by the door. When he stood, he felt tired in a way sleep would not fix. He thought about the building then, about the conference room floor, clean now, reflecting light, about the way Eleanor Price's breathing had changed. He did not replay the moment in detail. He stopped himself before it could turn into something else. When Lily came home from school, she talked about a group project and a boy who had cried in class. Aaron listened, nodding, asking questions at the right places. He made dinner while she did homework at the table. They ate together. He washed dishes. She dried them. That night, after Lily went to bed, Aaron sat on the couch and turned on the television. Eleanor's face appeared on the screen, frozen in a headline about markets and mergers. He turned it off without reading. He went to the window and looked out at the city. Lights came on one by one. Somewhere, sirens sounded again. distant and constant. His life had always been small in a way he could manage. Clear edges, predictable weight. As he stood there, he understood that something had pressed against those edges. He did not yet know where it would break. The building felt different when Aaron returned to work 2 nights later. Not louder, not busier. Just alert in a way he could feel in his chest. Security guards stood straighter at the desk. A new camera had been mounted near the elevators, its lens angled slightly down. No one mentioned Eleanor Price by name. They didn't have to. Her presence moved through the place without her. Aaron clocked in and took his cart from the supply room. The supervisor, Mark, gave him a nod that stayed neutral. Mark was good at that. He had been promoted for knowing when not to ask questions. "Same floors," Mark said. Aaron nodded and moved on. As he worked, he noticed people watching him when they thought he wasn't looking. A security guard lingered too long near the stairwell. Someone from maintenance pretended to check a panel twice. Aaron kept his head down and cleaned. In the break room, the television was on. A news anchor spoke about Eleanor Price's hospitalization in careful language. There were no details, no cause given, just concern. Aaron poured coffee and listened without facing the screen. "Crazy," someone said behind him. "Right here in the building." "Yeah," another voice answered. "You think it was an accident?" Aaron left before the conversation could find him. He understood power in simple terms. It set the rules and made them feel natural. He had learned early that staying invisible was a kind of safety. Do the job. Don't stand out. Don't touch what wasn't meant for you. The conference room was locked when he reached it. A sign had been taped to the glass. Authorized personnel only. He cleaned the hallway outside it instead, careful around the edges. The floor reflected his face back at him, distorted by the light. He thought about the kiss then, not as a choice but as a problem. It did not fit any rule he knew. It had crossed a boundary he could not name but felt clearly now. Not because it had been wrong, but because it had been seen. Near the end of his shift, Mark asked him to stop by the office. The room smelled like paper and stale air. Mark closed the door but did not sit. "Security will probably want to talk to you," Mark said. "Routine." "About what?" "About that night." Aaron nodded. He had expected this. He had also hoped, quietly, that it would not come. "Just answer what they ask," Mark added, "and don't volunteer anything." Aaron left the office and finished his floors. When his shift ended, he clocked out and went home. No one stopped him. No one called. The next morning, his phone rang while he was making breakfast. The number was unfamiliar. He let it ring out. It rang again. He turned off the stove and answered. The voice on the other end was polite and controlled. "Security. They asked if he can come in later that day." He said yes. The interview room was small and windowless. 2 men sat across from him. A recorder sat on the table, already running. They asked him to describe the night in order. He did. They asked him why he had done what he did. He answered with facts, not reasons. They nodded. They wrote notes. One of them asked about consent. The word landed heavy between them. Aaron stared at the table while he answered. He said there had been no time to think, that he believed she was dying. They thanked him when it was over. Not personally. Professionally. As he left, he passed a framed photograph of Eleanor Price in the hallway. She was smiling, surrounded by people in suits. The glass reflected Aaron's face over hers for a second, then slid away as he walked. By the time he picked Lily up from school, his shoulders ached. She talked about a spelling test. He nodded and listened. When they got home, he found an email waiting on his phone. Administrative leave. Effective immediately. He read it twice. The words stayed the same. That night, after Lily went to bed, Aaron sat at the table and stared at his keys. Without the building, they felt like something borrowed. The power that had always lived above him had noticed his existence. It would not forget. Eleanor woke to white walls and a ceiling she did not recognize. The room smelled clean in a way that felt intentional. Machines marked time beside her bed, each sound measured. She tried to move and found resistance, wires and weight holding her still. A nurse noticed her eyes open and came closer, asked her name. asked her where she was. Eleanor answered without difficulty. The facts returned first. Her body followed more slowly. Later, a doctor explained what had happened in short sentences. Dehydration, a reaction to medication, loss of consciousness, intervention. He paused before the last word, checking her face. "Someone found you," he said. "A staff member." Eleanor closed her eyes and nodded once. Images came back without order. The conference room, the floor cold through her clothes. A man's face above hers, tense and unsure. Breath where there'd been none. She did not comment on it. Not then. By the afternoon, security had visited her room, then legal counsel. Questions were asked carefully, as if they might break something fragile. Eleanor answered what she could remember. She said she had felt herself slipping. She said she remembered air returning. She did not describe the moment in between. The footage was mentioned. She did not ask to see it. Across the city, Aaron sat in a different kind of room. This one had windows that did not open. A woman in a gray suit slid papers across the table toward him. Her voice was calm, even friendly. "This is standard," she said, "given the circumstances." Aaron read slowly. The words blurred together. Investigation, liability, confidentiality. He signed where she pointed, his name coming out smaller than usual. "Are you in trouble?" he asked. "No," she said. "Not at this time." The phrase did not comfort him. He was escorted out through a side exit. Outside, the day was bright and loud. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, unsure which direction to go. He checked his phone. No new messages. At home, Lily noticed his presence immediately. She looked up from the table, surprised. "You're back already?" "Yeah," he said. "Just for today." She accepted that answer and went back to her homework. Aaron sat across from her, pretending to read while his mind replayed the meeting in pieces. The woman's steady voice, the way the door had closed behind him. That evening, another email arrived. This one requested his presence the following morning at a different office. No explanation. The office was quieter, smaller. A man with tired eyes introduced himself as part of Eleanor Price's legal team. He shook Aaron's hand and gestured for him to sit. "We appreciate your cooperation," the man said, "and your discretion." He asked Aaron to recount the night again. This time the questions were more precise. Where exactly had his hands been? How long had contact lasted? Whether Eleanor had shown any sign of awareness. Aaron answered carefully. He kept his eyes on the table. When the word kiss came up, it felt misplaced, too soft for what had happened. He corrected it once, calling it contact. The man wrote something down. At any point, the man asked, "Did you consider waiting for medical personnel?" "She wasn't breathing," Aaron said. The man nodded, as if that settled something. Or postponed it. When Aaron left, he felt lighter in one way and heavier in another. The questions had not accused him. They had framed him. That afternoon, Eleanor asked to speak to him. The call came without warning. A number he did not recognize. He answered out of habit. "This is Eleanor Price," the voice said. Aaron stood up so fast his chair tipped back. He caught it with one hand. "Yes," he said. Then, after a pause, "Yes, ma'am." There was a silence on the line, brief but noticeable. "You don't need to call me that," she said. "I wanted to thank you." The word landed awkwardly between them. "I remember breathing again," she continued. "That matters." Aaron did not know what to say. He waited. "I'm sorry for the position this has put you in," she added. "That wasn't my intention." He heard sincerity in her voice, but also distance. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. When it ended, Aaron remained standing, phone still in his hand. That night, Lily watched him from the couch while he washed dishes. "Did something bad happen at work?" she asked. "Something complicated," he said. She considered that, then nodded. "Sometimes grown-ups make things complicated even when they help," she said. He looked at her, surprised. She shrugged and went back to her drawing. Aaron dried his hands slowly. The water kept running until he noticed. The moment that could not be taken back had already passed. What remained was the shape it left behind. Administrative leave settled into Aaron's life without noise. There was no meeting to explain it, no clear end date. Just an email that stayed in his inbox and a paycheck that arrived on schedule but felt temporary, like something loaned. He adjusted his days to fill the space. He walked Lily to school every morning now. She did not ask why anymore. She just took his hand when they crossed the street, even though she had stopped needing that years ago. He stayed until the bell rang, watching the children file inside, then walked home alone. At the apartment, he cleaned. Not because it needed it, but because movement helped him think less. He wiped the counters twice. He reorganized the hallway closet. He fixed a loose hinge on the bathroom door that had squeaked for months. When he finished, he sat at the table and waited. The phone stayed quiet. News moved on the way it always did. Eleanor Price was discharged from the hospital. A short statement was released. She thanked the medical staff. She looked forward to returning to work. There was no mention of the building, no mention of him. At the grocery store, a man he recognized from the neighborhood nodded at him, then hesitated, as if deciding whether to say something. He didn't. Aaron paid and left. Outside, he stood with the bags at his feet and breathed until the tightness in his chest eased. An official letter arrived the following week. The investigation was ongoing. Cooperation was expected. Confidentiality was required. Aaron folded the paper and placed it with the others. The stack by the door grew taller. At night, when Lily slept, he sat on the edge of his bed and replayed the same few seconds from the conference room. Not the kiss. The pause before it. The moment when he had known that whatever he did would follow him. He did not feel guilt. That surprised him. What he felt was exposure, like he had stepped into light without meaning to, and now could not step back. Neighbors began to change in small ways. A woman upstairs stopped chatting in the laundry room. A man he had once helped carry a couch avoided eye contact. No one accused him of anything. They didn't need to. Silence carried its own shape. One afternoon, Lily came home quiet. She dropped her backpack by the door and went to her room without speaking. Aaron followed and knocked. "What's wrong?" he asked. She sat on her bed, knees pulled up. "A girl at school said you were on the news," she said. He sat beside her. The mattress dipped under his weight. "What did she say exactly? That you did something to a rich lady?" Aaron took a breath. He did not rush to fill the space. "I helped someone who was hurt," he said finally. "Some people don't understand that yet." Lily watched his face, searching for something. "Did you do a bad thing?" she asked. "No," he said. She nodded, satisfied in a way only children could be. Then she said, "Okay," and stood to start her homework. The simplicity of it stayed with him longer than the question. A week later, his supervisor called. Mark's voice sounded careful, like someone handling glass. "HR says it might be a while," Mark said, "before things are resolved." "I understand," Aaron said. "I wish I had more to tell you." "I know." After the call, Aaron sat in silence. The apartment felt smaller than usual. He opened a window, even though it was cold. The city sounds drifted in, unchanged. Another call came that evening. This one from Eleanor's assistant. She asked if Aaron would be willing to meet in person. Neutral location. Brief conversation. He agreed without enthusiasm or fear. Just acceptance. They met in a quiet office that did not belong to either of them. Eleanor looked thinner than she had on screen. Not fragile, just human in a way the news never showed. She stood when he entered. "Thank you for coming," she said. They sat across from each other. There was a table between them, bare. "I wanted you to hear this from me," she said. "I am grateful. And I am also aware that gratitude does not solve what this has created." Aaron nodded. He had no argument. "My team is handling the situation," she continued. "They believe discretion is best for everyone involved." "And you?" he asked. She looked at him steadily. "I believe you did what you thought was necessary," she said. "But belief and outcome are not the same thing." The meeting ended without resolution. No promises were made, no threats given. When Aaron left, he felt the same weight settle back onto his shoulders. That night, he stood at the sink while Lily brushed her teeth. "You know," she said through foam, "if you hadn't been there, she might have died." "Yes," he said. She rinsed, then looked at him in the mirror. "Then it's weird that people are mad," she said. Aaron turned off the water and watched her reflection. Waiting had become its own kind of consequence, and the longer it lasted, the more he understood that something would be taken from him before it was over. The waiting did not end all at once. It thinned the way fog does when the sun comes up slowly. Aaron stopped checking his phone every few minutes. He learned the rhythm of days without work and stopped pretending they were temporary. He began taking Lily to the park after school, not the one closest to their building, but the smaller one a few blocks farther, where fewer people recognized him. He sat on the bench while she climbed and ran, her jacket tossed aside even when it was cold. He watched her the way he always had, but with a sharper attention, as if something could be taken without warning. One afternoon, as she kicked at the dirt near the swings, Aaron noticed how easily she filled space, how little she worried about who was watching. It made him aware of how much of his own life had been shaped around staying unnoticed. At home, he started sorting through old paperwork, tax forms, employment records, things he had never thought to question. He realized how long he had measured himself by how little trouble he caused, how rarely he had asked what he was owed. The call from Eleanor came without an assistant this time. No introduction, just her voice. "I wanted to check in," she said. "Not about the process, about you." He sat at the table while Lily colored nearby. "I'm managing," he said. There was a pause, not hesitation. Consideration. "My team has advised a resolution," Eleanor said. "One that would bring this to a close quickly." He waited. "It would include compensation," she continued, "and a formal agreement of non-disclosure. You would not return to the building. There would be no admission of wrongdoing on either side." Aaron pictured the building then, the flickering lights, the cart, the hallway that would never feel the same. He felt the weight of what was being offered. Money would ease things. Silence would protect him in ways that mattered. "And if I don't agree?" he asked. "Then the uncertainty continues," she said, "for both of us." After the call, Aaron sat still. Lily looked up from her paper. "Was that the lady?" she asked. "Yes." She nodded, then said, "She sounds tired." "So do you," Aaron said. "I had math," she replied, serious. That night, Aaron lay awake longer than usual. He thought about the kiss again, but differently. Not as an action, but as a moment when he had stopped weighing consequences and acted on need. He realized that what unsettled people was not the contact itself, but the reminder that minds could blur when lives were at stake. In the days that followed, emails arrived outlining terms, polite language, clear benefits, clear limits. He read them carefully. He imagined Lily older, asking him why he had taken the money. He imagined telling her it was practical, necessary. He did not imagine feeling at ease with the answer. He met Eleanor one last time. This time, there were no lawyers in the room. Just 2 chairs and a window looking out over the city. "I don't want this to define either of us," she said. "It already has," Aaron replied. She studied him, not unkindly. "You could walk away," she said. "No one would blame you." He thought about that, about how often walking away had been presented to him as the reasonable choice, about how rarely it had been framed as a decision with weight. "I don't want to disappear correctly," he said. Eleanor nodded slowly. She did not argue. The decision came quietly. He declined the agreement as written. He accepted a different outcome, one that did not protect him from scrutiny, one that did not erase the event. It meant the end of his job. It meant uncertainty. It meant being visible in a way he had never planned. When he told Lily, he kept it simple. "I won't be going back to that building," he said. She looked up at him from the couch. "Did you get fired?" she asked. "Yes." "Because you helped someone?" "Yes." She considered this, then said, "That doesn't sound fair." "No," he said, "it doesn't." She leaned against him, her head resting on his arm. "But you still helped," she said. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her a little closer than usual. Seeing himself clearly did not bring relief. But it brought something steadier, a sense that whatever came next would be faced without shrinking. The paperwork arrived 2 days after his decision. Not in a rush, not delayed. Just placed carefully into his inbox, as if to mirror the tone he was expected to take when reading it. Termination of employment. Effective immediately. No cause listed. No explanation required. Aaron read it once. Then again. He closed the laptop and sat back in his chair. Lily was at the table, cutting out shapes for a school project. The scissors made a steady sound. He listened to it longer than necessary before speaking. "I lost my job," he said. She didn't look up right away. She finished the cut she was working on and set the paper aside. "Okay," she said. "That means things might change for a while." She finally looked at him. Her face was calm. Curious, but not afraid. "Are we moving?" she asked. "No." "Am I changing schools?" "No." She nodded, accepting the boundaries of the change as he presented them. "Then we'll be fine," she said, and went back to her work. The certainty in her voice unsettled him more than fear would have. He realized how much she trusted the shape of his presence, not the stability of his circumstances. It was a responsibility he felt fully now. Word spread faster than he expected. Not details, just outcomes. The building replaced him without ceremony. His supervisor sent a brief message wishing him luck. A coworker texted once, then stopped. The routines that had structured his nights dissolved quietly. He filed for unemployment. He updated his resume for the first time in years. The list of skills looked thin on the page. Custodial maintenance, night operations, key access. He wondered how much of his value had been tied to places that did not belong to him. An offer came through Eleanor's legal team a final time. Reduced, framed as assistance, not settlement. No signature required, just acceptance. Money would arrive quickly if he agreed. Aaron stared at the email for a long time. He thought about overdue bills, about Lily's growing feet, about the way relief could feel like permission to stop thinking. He deleted it. The consequences did not arrive all at once. They came as adjustments. He sold his car and learned the bus schedule. He cooked more carefully, planning meals down to the dollar. He took temporary work cleaning offices during the day, places where no one knew his name or story. Once, on a bus ride home, he saw Eleanor's face on a screen above the driver. She was speaking at a conference, her voice confident, her posture composed. He watched without resentment, without pride. Just recognition. Two lives that had intersected briefly and would now continue on separate paths, altered but intact. That evening, Lily asked him why he didn't fight harder to keep his old job. "I could have," he said. "Why didn't you?" He considered his answer. He chose the one that did not simplify things for her, because keeping it would have meant pretending nothing important happened, he said. She thought about that while brushing her teeth. When she finished, she came into the living room and sat beside him. "I don't think you're the kind of person who's good at pretending," she said. He smiled once. Small, genuine. The cost of his decision became clearer over time. Invitations stopped. Networks closed. He learned what it meant to be on the outside of a story he did not control. But he also noticed something else. He slept better. Not longer, just deeper. Without replaying the night in the conference room as often. Without rehearsing explanations he might never be asked to give. The weight had not disappeared, but it had settled into something he could carry. Standing still had cost him his job, his anonymity, his place in a system that preferred clean endings. But it had given him something else in return. When Lily asked him one night if he regretted it, he answered without hesitation. "No," he said. She accepted that the way she accepted most truths, without ceremony. Outside, the city continued its noise. Buildings changed tenants. People moved on. Aaron's life had narrowed in some ways and widened in others. The cost had been paid. Not loudly, not all at once, but fully. Aaron found work 3 months later at a public middle school on the other side of the city. Day shift. Floors that showed every footprint by noon. Hallways louder than anything he had known at night. The pay was less, but it was steady. The staff learned his name quickly. No one asked where he had come from. He adjusted to the new routine without comment. Up earlier, home earlier. He walked Lily to school again, then took the bus across town. In the afternoons, he was there when she came home, sitting at the table while she talked through her day. The shape of their time together changed, and neither of them tried to compare it to what had been before. Once, on his way to work, the bus passed the tower where he used to clean. He noticed it only because the reflection in the glass caught his eye. For a moment, he thought about looking up. He didn't. The building remained just another structure among many. Eleanor Price returned fully to public life. Interviews, panels, announcements. Aaron saw her occasionally in passing, on screens in waiting rooms or above counters. She spoke carefully now, pausing more often. It was subtle. Most people would not have noticed. There was no follow-up, no reconciliation, no quiet thank you. Delivered later, the story did not circle back to him. It moved forward without needing his permission. At the school, a student fainted one afternoon during an assembly. Aaron was the first adult to reach him. He checked breathing, called for help, stayed close until the nurse arrived. When it was over, he went back to work without telling anyone. That evening, Lily sat at the table doing homework. Aaron cooked dinner, moving through the kitchen without thinking much about it. When he set the plates down, she looked up. "Did you ever miss it?" she asked. "Miss what?" "The old job." He considered the question longer than he needed to. "I miss parts of it," he said, "but not the way it made me feel after." She nodded, satisfied. Later, after she went to bed, Aaron stood at the window again. The city lights were the same as they had always been. What had changed was how he stood there. No waiting, no sense that something unfinished might come back for him. He thought about the hallway one last time, the flickering lights, the silence before breath returned. He let the memory sit without pushing it away or pulling it closer. In the morning, he would wake up early, make breakfast, walk Lily to school, clean floors that would be dirty again by afternoon. The world would not pause to mark what had happened. And that was fine. Something had changed, but it did not announce itself. It lived in the way he moved forward without shrinking, in the absence of the life he had not fought to keep, in the presence of one he now carried openly. The hallway stayed behind him. He did not.